Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to hashtag Behind Relationship Goals. That's Bones.
And that's Fofo.
And of course, we have our lovely Madame Soba with us, just sleeping nicely and enjoying her afternoon nap. Bonizi, what is our topic for this episode?
Our topic for this episode is... Dun, dun, dun. Why does it have to be so dramatic? It is about moving in together with your partner.
Ooh, very interesting. A very controversial topic, especially here in the Philippines where I guess we are relatively more conservative.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a taboo to talk about moving in with your partner if you're not married. Aside from that, I do know a lot of people that have moved in together before.
And it is being done even more nowadays.
Yes. I think for now, we're going to focus on the idea of moving in together, putting aside the fact if you're married or not, because that's not something that we're going to talk about.
Gotcha. So just the general concept of moving in together.
Because, okay, what I want to say to all our listeners out there, people live their lives differently based on, what is available to them and what they're accustomed to, what their beliefs are. So I don't think we're in the position to tell people, oh, you should do this and you should do that. You do what works for you.
Okay. So I guess we're going to go through our own experience and what we felt. And to all the viewers out there, it's up to you, and listeners, it's up to you guys to kind of draw from that and see if it applies to your own experiences or to your own future experiences.
So I guess we can start off with when we first moved in together.
Okay, so let me start. We moved in together later on in our relationship.
Yes.
In our 10-year relationship.
When we were engaged.
I think so. The timeline is a bit blurry.
Okay.
But definitely kasi before, there were a lot of sleepovers because we would travel a lot.
Yeah, we would travel a lot. I got to stay with your family. You got to stay with my family also.
Yeah, and then when we started taping together, there were times where we would end up sleeping in each other's place just because it was more convenient that way.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we were also kind of engaged before anybody else
kind
knew.
of engaged.
Sorry, we were
engaged.
So when did we get engaged?
2014, Fofo?
2013. Okay, so we had a lot of time. So we had a lot more confidence to kind of like sleep over one another's places. And I think that helped with the moving in part for me at least, because you kind of get to know. I mean, if you're sleeping over, she has to use my banyo or I have to use her banyo. You see these habits coming out already. What kind of morning person is this? Is this chick? And you see all these nuances which kind of help prepare me. So for Bonizi, however, I don't know if that's how you felt, because I think you're mas nervyosa ka kaysa sa akin eh.
I'm a bit more anxious. No, not a bit more anxious. I'm very much more anxious than you are. But I think that I got to know you more because when we were traveling, it was just the both of us. And I got to see your habits in your room, just like taking care of yourself. How do you treat your space? And there were a lot of things that I was intrigued by when we were traveling pa lang.
Okay, so now that we've set that lay of the land, that we kind of knew some of our habits already, when it came to the point where we were going to move in, and I would say that's in this condo, isn't it?
This condo na, yeah.
So that was in this condo na alam natin, okay, this is like an official move in because you're bringing all your stuff. You're saying this is your home, and I'm saying this is my home too. What were your reservations? Or let's be blunt, what were you scared of?
Well, we were looking for a place kasi when we were engaged, we were looking for a place that we could stay in, when we got married and when we could I don't know, maybe if we had a family early on, then at least it would be a good enough space for us. And it just so happened that we found this condo. And it happened all of a sudden that we were like, oh my gosh, this is such a good deal. We have to get this condo right away. I was staying in your rental condo in the same building, but we found this unit and for some reason it just struck us and we had to get it at that moment. But I was scared because I didn't know how to handle a household because my background is I came from being so dependent on my parents and everything in the house. So I was afraid of making a lot of mistakes. I was afraid of...
But you were already living alone, so why were you afraid of managing a household?
Because then it wasn't just me.
Oh, because there was someone who was going to judge you.
There was somebody else. That was you. Okay. So when I was staying in your condo, it was just me, Fofo. I was just the only one there. Somebody would come from time to time to clean. But I was basically living alone at that time.
So, because you had already been living alone. You already had your own management system. So you weren't afraid of managing a household. You were afraid of me judging you.
No. I had no system. I was just like, whatever, go with the flow. Oh, kung feel ko lang gagawin ko. So I didn't have a system. I didn't have anything that I followed. I just did whatever I felt like.
And you were aware that you had no system.
Yeah, I was very much
Gotcha.
aware.
Okay, what else?
I think
Like, what else were you afraid of? You were moving in with me, and I was moving in with you. You knew me very well already.
yes. Okay, I was so afraid of the mess that the both of us were going to make.
Oh, the both of us?
Yes, the both of us. Excuse me. Because when we had the sleepovers, your socks would be on the table. Your socks, I don't know if they were clean or not, but they were socks and they were on the table. So things like that. And those were the moments that I was like, oh gosh, okay, if we're going to be together 24/7 now, paano na? Like, the sock is going to be like a t-shirt like on the kitchen counter, which does happen up until this day, but
Sorry po. Still my fault.
so things
Guilty.
like that. I was just afraid of the mess that the both of us were going to make, knowing how messy we are.
Was I afraid of anything, Bones?
I don't know if you're ever afraid of anything, to be honest.
No. I do get afraid. But I think with me, kasi when it comes to something new, I get more
get excited,
I get more
yeah.
excited. Like, I'm definitely scared. But the thing is, because I'm so excited, natatabunan yung pagiging takot ko.
Okay.
And that's really what happens for a lot of things. Even when we travel, we go to a scary place. For Bonizi, she feels the fear first. I feel fear, but it's also the excitement of something
May
new.
adrenaline rush ka.
That adventure, yeah. So I think that I was more excited. To just hang around with you, because obviously we like being around one another, and I think that's very clear.
Duh.
The podcast, The podcast, I think, is proof of that. We love talking with one another, and we've made cuento. We like just hanging out, like even if we're not doing anything. And mind you, a very particular and specific distinction of that time when we moved in together was that we weren't into games yet. So
you're
like
right.
zero. Like, I think it was like maybe like Candy Crush days or something like that.
We actually have photos of when we first moved in, and we had a TV with us, and we brought that into the living room, and then we didn't have a bed yet. So ang nilatag namin, we just put out like a big comforter in the middle of the sala, and we slept there because it was just the both of us. We were so afraid
Yeah.
of like
So-
the condo.
Yes, basically for me, I was really just excited to be with someone whom I loved and someone who I really enjoyed hanging out with. But, however, now that I think about it and I look back,
Okay.
I think that there's so much I could have and should have been afraid of.
Like what?
Okay, here's an example. If I were nervioso like you, I would think, oh my God, what if she sees all my flaws? Or what if she can't take what I can take? And I have a very, very good example for this one, Bones.
Okay.
During our first 3 weeks or maybe even 4 weeks of living together in this condo, Bonizi and I slept on the floor.
Yeah, we did. We didn't have a
slept
bed.
on the floor. We had a comforter under us and a blanket above us. And I think there was even a time where there was no aircon maybe.
No, may aircon na kasi kasama yung aircon sa unit.
Okay, so just think about that. For like 3 to 4 weeks, what if suddenly Bonizi says, what is this man providing for me? I mean, I know you're not that kind
No,
of...
totoo.
I know
I
you're
get
not
that.
that
I
kind
get
of
that.
person.
Yeah, I'm not.
Maybe that's why I didn't think about it. Pero let me judge our situation in the
Okay.
past. Let us do a retrospective evaluation of our past. And that's exactly the first thing that comes to mind. I'm like, oh my God, what if she thinks ano to? Ito yung bibigay niya sa akin? Akala ba niya masaya ako dito? Natutulog ako sa sahig?
No, but if you put it into perspective, there are some people that do think that way.
Yes.
And they have this notion na, or maybe even a family, if somebody saw it from the outside, they'd be like, why is he making you sleep on the floor? But to be honest, I didn't really have a problem because it was so much fun. It was such a new experience for us.
So I guess to show you the flip side of why I didn't end up feeling that way, because I thought it was like camping. I was like,
too.
oh my God, ang saya nito. And
Me
then
too.
here's the thing. We had a TV. So we had a TV in front of us, and we'll try to dig up the photo and show it to the YouTube viewers. And nakalatag kami in front of the TV. We wake up, we turn on the TV, and we're chilling. There was no work. I don't think we had taping at that time.
We weren't taping.
So it was so much fun. It was like camping indoors, super glamping. And I guess it also shows you that glass half full, glass half empty. We are people who lean more towards the optimistic side of things.
Yeah.
And we were able to kind of like turn that situation into a happy moment for us.
It's so funny because how we are as people, we're not in a rush to do anything. Actually, kung tutuusin, we're really slow when it comes to like doing things for the house. So for a time, we didn't have a bed, but also in our shower.
I was about to say the shower. We had no shower curtain. I was like, oh, sorry, Bones. I have to say this. I have to interrupt you. Okay, for some people whom I know and some girlfriends, the barkadas whom I would have, they would say, oh my God, make red flag. Actually, black flag na nga yun eh. Wala na yun. Out na. Walk out na kami nun.
Oh,
Kasi
really?
walang shower curtain sa shower. And do you know how crazy it gets in the shower when there's no shower curtain?
Like when you're like shampooing your hair and then the water just splatters everywhere.
Oo, parang nagkaroon ng tsunami dun sa loob ng banyo mo after you shower.
Although to be fair, when we actually did get a shower curtain, I had to teach you how to properly use a shower curtain because the shower curtain would be outside of the shower. So nababasa yung labas ng shower. So, I mean, these are things that we had to learn about each other, while we were living together.
Okay, I'm gonna support that. Wala kasi kaming shower curtain dati nung bata ako.
Kasi glass kasi yung sa'yo
or yung pintuan. Before that, the first version of our house was yung pintuan.
A door?
Oo, yung pintuan. Yung parang sa locker rooms.
Huh?
Parang,
a glass shower? A glass door?
No. Plastic door. You've never seen those kinds of showers? Come on, Bones.
Shower lang.
In Airbnb. Yeah.
Okay.
So you go in, you open the door, you go in the shower, then you close the door.
Yeah.
Diba?
Okay.
Ganun yung shower namin dati. And then later on, the next iteration of my bathroom nung renovate yung bahay was a glass wall naman.
Yeah.
Yung type na ganun.
Glass door naman.
So, I didn't know how to use a shower curtain. I'm sorry.
And then,
I would put the shower curtain outside so all the water would drip outside the banyo.
And nakakainis pa kasi like when I go in the bathroom, the bath mat is so wet, as in super basa. And I'd be like, this is such a squishy bathroom mat. I do not like this. Fofo, this is how you do it properly. Please.
Okay, did na turn off ka ba dun? Curious lang ako. Like, what were your thoughts when you would think that? Or see that?
Nainis ako.
Okay.
Because it's a pet peeve of mine to have the outside of yung katabi ng shower. I don't like the bath mat wet. And I don't like it squishy. It just feels gross. So, I mean, that's just my own personal pet peeve. I also didn't like that the socks were all over the house.
Okay.
In random places.
Since we kind of moved on to what we noticed about one another when we moved in, one thing that I appreciated was that Bonizi was messy.
You appreciated that I was messy?
Yes. Surprised?
Yes.
Okay, the reason why I appreciated that, especially during the beginning, I think nowadays it's a different story, but back then kasi I was also super messy. So I was like, yeah, she's messy. I can be messy. Hindi ako mapapagalitan kasi ang gulo rin niya.
Actually, the nickname that my mom has given me is Ahas. Because when I come home from like school or from work, I take off my clothes and my shorts and then I just leave it there. And she's like, you have a hamper. Why don't you put it in the hamper in the laundry basket?
Wait, so you're Ahas Bones at home with your mom?
Yeah.
Bones, I'm Ahas Fofo in taping. Yun yung nickname nila in taping.
So,
kasi kailangan sinusundan talaga ako ng stylist. Kasi I used to have this habit. I'm more conscious now. I used to have this habit of taking off my jacket
and just
then
leaving
putting it
it
on
anywhere.
a chair. Pero it wasn't my chair. Kung saan-saan lang yun. So sorry to all the stylists na pinagod ko. I'm doing better now.
No, you're doing much better, in fairness.
I've learned.
Yeah, so I guess I'm very surprised that you were okay with me being messy. How is the situation now with our messiness?
I think we're still very messy.
I think we're organized mess now.
Yeah. So we're treading in the right direction. We've taken a few steps away from being just purely messy. So there is a bit more organization to our lives right now.
Yeah, we'll have like our corners, like to my side over here, we have a cart and it's full of like our podcast stuff and yung mga wires namin. But when you look at it, it's messy. But I see it as organized because I know that this mess has everything that we need for the podcast and the stream.
Okay, but Bonizino, I really like the discussion. I think that our stories about moving in together,
Okay.
it would really help because I think a lot of people will resonate with that, with those stories. So what else do you have? What other anecdotes do you have of the time that we moved in together? What feelings would you like to unearth and share in this episode? And what are the nuances that you noticed or realized? And even just living together, was there anything that you felt, oh my God, I learned this when we moved together? Especially in terms of like furniture, to be honest with you.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not really particular on design. I mean, that wasn't really something that I had thought of. What I thought of when we moved in together was who does what.
Oh, okay. So
an
explain.
example would be when I thought about the bills. Who is going to pay for the bills? Are we going to split the bills, like of the house, of the water, the electricity? And I think that's when you came up with the system of you paying for all the bills.
Yeah, you know what? When you brought that up, like how do you pay for the bills? We never really had much of a problem in terms of determining who is going to do it. Did we have that system right from the get-go?
I think so. Only because I was really bad at listing down my expenses, and then you decided, okay, Bonizi, for all the expenses that we have for our household, I will pay for it. And I will pay for it with my credit card so that everything is listed down. It's easy for me to track. And at least we don't have to go back and forth with everything. I had to pay for the phone bills. I paid for the association dues because I paid with check. And then I paid for the sueldo. That's it.
Oh my God. Okay, wait. So to share with all the viewers out there and the listeners, this was our system from the get-go. I would pay for everything. Especially things that I could pay from my credit card, which is pretty much 90% of all the bills.
Sugar
and
fofo.
The
You're my sugar fofo.
And the only thing that I asked Bonizi to pay for were the things that I found a hassle, which was like things you had to write a check for
Groceries.
or give cash to. Actually, even the groceries, as much as possible, we would card it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then at the end of the day, I would just break it down because it was so easy for me to get my credit card bill. And here's a tip, okay? Your credit card bill, whatever bank it is, you get the PDF, the digital statement. Please try to go paperless. Paper bills are useless nowadays. And you can convert it into an Excel file right away. So there are services online that help you do that. And when you convert it, you can it automatically turns into an Excel file, and you can just sort through, whatever you need to sort through.
Yeah,
so
andun na agad. You don't have to input anything. Nandun na agad
yeah, that
siya.
made life extremely easy for me. And in trying to say, okay, Bonizi, you spent this, and then these are our bills. If we halved it, this is your share.
To be honest, I think we need to do that Excel sheet for our gaming expenses, Fofo. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
We do. We need to check up on that. But anyway, going back to the topic.
Yeah, going back to that. So we didn't really have that. No, we didn't have a problem when it came to paying the bills. Only because it was very clear that Bonizi kind of sucked at it. And
Big time.
enjoyed creating systems for it. I don't know what the solution is if it just so happens that there is a couple that don't like managing household bills or household admin work at the same time. So
Yeah.
I think it's a skill that everybody has to learn. Bonizi has gotten so much better at it. I told her that this is our system, but our deal is you have to learn and you have to get better. And I wholeheartedly believe that she can do it on her own now.
Yay, you gave me a quiz pa.
Yeah,
you
I
gave me
did,
a
I
quiz
did.
pa to check if I memorized everything.
Okay, what else? What else do we have?
For chores. this was another thing that we needed to discuss because so we were so used to having people help us with chores around the house, doing everyday things. So what was our initial usapan when it came to doing chores?
Oh, I don't remember. Did we have an usapan?
So when we first moved in together, when it came to chores, we didn't talk about it.
Because we didn't do a lot of chores. Was there a lot of cleaning that happened?
Not really. Honestly, not a lot.
Although, so there was a honeymoon phase, right? When you live together, like, ganado kayo, naaliw pa kayo sa isa't isa, you have fun being together, and even washing dishes, you're saying, yeah, it's so therapeutic, it's so fun washing dishes. But in the long run, eventually, after work, you go home. There were times when we called one another out with the dishes. Do you remember this, Bones?
Yeah, I do.
You would call me out most of the time, but there were times when I would say, wait a minute, why is it always me washing the dishes? Why don't you do it? So nagkaroon ng ganon. And do you remember this time?
Vaguely.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest issue that we had with household chores. It was who was going to do the dishes. The cleaning and the sweeping kasi, it's not something that would have to be done repetitively. So maybe like once a day, once every 2 days, okay na yun. Pero yung dishes kasi, they happen 4 times a day?
Yeah, whenever you eat,
Breakfast,
you would have
lunch,
to like
merienda,
wash
dinner.
the dishes. Yeah.
So that became a pain point for us. And
I think like amongst all the chores that you have to do in the house, washing dishes is my least favorite.
yeah.
For some people, it's therapeutic, but it's not my favorite at all. Like I'd rather sweep the floors.
I find dishwashing therapeutic when I feel like it. Pero pag hindi ko feel, hassle siya, syempre.
Sorry naman po.
Hindi, no, I'm being
you're
honest
being
about
honest.
like how I feel about the chore. You still do it.
Yeah.
But that's how I felt. Here's the thing though. I remember that I realized how important or how significant what do you call that again? Dishwashing yung sa US, yung ginagamit nila.
A dishwasher?
A dishwasher.
Okay.
Kasi hindi yata tayo mga Pinoy, hindi tayo mahilig sa dishwasher.
Only because like we feel that if you put it in the dishwasher, it's not as clean. But living with my brother for some time in the States, they take out all the dirt and junk
the oil.
and then they put it in the dishwasher.
Which makes things way easier,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. So during the times that we've traveled and we've stayed in different Airbnbs and hotels, we found out that dishwashers really do help a lot. Pero yun lang, here in the Philippines, hindi tayo mahilig gumamit ng dishwasher. I wonder why. Because I always felt, there was a time where I felt, now why don't we buy a dishwasher kaya? Yun lang, kasi hindi natin kasanayan dito sa Pilipinas. Sa mga condo natin, walang provision usually for
that's
dishwasher.
also why. So maybe in the future, when we think about our future home or our future condo, wherever we live, maybe that's an investment that we can make also. Since we're not fans of dishwashing, maybe we can try to make something or buy something that'll make our lives easier.
True.
Diba? Let's save up for that.
Okay, so something to think about and talk about, especially for you guys.
Okay, so we've talked about how it was moving in together, and it's been quite some time. We got married in January and we're like 10 months down the line from living together. But there are good things that have come out.
Okay, example.
Example would be Fofo did not used to pick up after himself after he ate. He would just leave the plates on the table all dirty and full of maybe ketchup or whatever. But now after he eats, he washes his dishes, or he at least rinses his dishes. So thank you for that nice improvement. It helps everybody's lives out in the kitchen. So that's one thing that I noticed. Oh, your turn.
I don't know. I don't think you've improved on anything.
Ay, grabe.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Grabe siya.
Bonizi, I think her overall awareness of what needs to be done, like day to day and month to month. Kasi yun nga, dati hindi niya kasanayan na magbayad ng bills. So now she's more aware. Oh, okay, these are the bills that I have to pay monthly. So I have to look for these bills if I don't remember.
Yeah.
Or now she has alerts on email. Now she has alerts on her calendar when to pay. So I think that palang is big improvement because it really eases eases your mind.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. What if every month you have to think, what bills do I have to pay for again? Just that moment of having to recall, that's like wasted energy. Just put it down. Just put it down. For me, for example, on the 20th and the 25th of every month, that's when I pay my bills. And I have a list of things that I'll pay on the 20th kasi yun yung due time, and then another on the 25th because that's another due date for a lot of bills for myself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
So that's just a tip that I can give. Bonizi, I know that you talked to me about giving tips for those who want to move in with their partner.
Yes.
But aside from tips, based on our experience, what was the criteria to move in? Like, how do people know that they're ready?
That's a good question. Because for us, we were just like, okay, we found a place. We're getting married. I think it's the right time na.
Yeah, because let me give you a bit of some anecdotes. Remember, I have a lot of siblings and you have a couple of siblings as well.
Yeah.
And they've also tried moving in with their own partners. Some have done it successfully. Some have done it prematurely. Parang napasu sila. They ended up fighting, or they ended up not having enough budget to sustain their means of living.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a microcosm. Our family and siblings and our experiences is a microcosm of the whole world, really, the Philippines. That moving in together is a huge risk, and there are so many things to consider. Yun nga lang, it's so difficult to parang foretell the future. No, it's impossible to foretell the future, right? But what are the lessons, or what are things that we can ask people to think about before moving in?
I think one, what is your main reason for moving in together? Some people that I know, like friends that I have moved in with their partner because one, they work at the same workplace. It's just easier for them to get to work together. They're able to spend more time together because at least after work or before work, magkasama na sila. Another one would be for budget. Like, let's say parents were like, you have to move out of the house. And it's hard to find a place that's affordable alone, especially if you're newly graduated, you don't have support from your family. So having a partner, or maybe, I don't know, like your boyfriend or girlfriend, or even just a friend, diba? Having that extra income to take care of the rent along with you is such a load off, diba? Ang laking bagay na may tumutulong dun sa rent. Kasi ang bigat kung ikaw lang.
These are thought points that you should maybe think about or talk about with your partner if ever you plan on moving in together. Kasi we're just sharing experiences, really. I have two thought points. The first one is a convenience thought point. The second one is a financial stability point.
Yes.
So starting with convenience, I think that, as you said, Bonizi, you should think about how convenient is it for both parties to move in together. So a good example is what you mentioned, where what if one lives in the south, another lives in the north, but both of you work in Makati.
Yeah.
So if you move together in Makati, then it makes life ultimately easier for you.
Yeah.
Naiiwasan niyo yung traffic, yung grind, yung pagod. So that convenience really helps.
Yeah.
So that's a point in your direction, I would think. On the flip side of that is, what if one was going all the way to the south coming from the north? So for one person, it's super convenient. Kasi andito na ako, nakatira ako sa south, and the other's gonna go from north to south. So that's a point not in your favor, kasi what if that develops resentment? Because we've seen that. We're like, hey, I moved here for you. Diba? may ganon, diba? I can totally imagine a teleserye scene going that way. I moved here for you. Tapos, ang bigat-bigat. Ako gumagawa ng lahat ng chores. I'm paying for everything. Don't you respect what I did for you? My sacrifice for you? I'm just being dramatic about it, but it happens. Believe me, guys. The second point that I would like to throw out is financial stability, which kind of goes hand in hand with convenience. But it's really cool and much easier if both parties are already financially independent. I've seen, kasi I've heard of stories from friends and from family where they go in and they say, uy, hindi mo ba kaya yung budget? Let's say, binudget na nila yung monthly, utilities, food, rent, and everything. And kapos yung isang party. So sasabihin ng partner niya na it's okay, sasaluhin muna kita.
Yeah.
But the thing is, during an emotional relationship, over time, you might be able to use that, or someone might use that in a fight. It could really lead to a lot of possible arguments and pain points in the future. And on the flip side, yung medyo hindi nakakapag budget or kulang kapos sa budget, they also might feel like, oh my God, I have to overcompensate kasi they're paying for this or they're helping me out with this.
Yeah.
And then it could also be a problem in the future. But I mean, like I said, these aren't criteria. These are just thought points to consider. But if for whatever reason you can malalampasan nyo yung problema na yan or yung mga points na yon, then by all means, go for it.
I also think that it's important that you talk to the people that care about you guys the most, like you as a couple, you as individuals, just to get, a different point of view, because when you're in a relationship, all you see is just the two of you. And it's nice to have or hear experiences from people that have been through a situation where they moved in with their partner. How was it like for them? What were the struggles that they had to go through? So that at least you have some sort of idea before you jump into a situation.
Okay, so those are nice thought points, and I guess just conversation pieces for partners who want to try to move in together maybe.
Yeah.
But what are some more practical tips that we can give them? Something that we've used that they can try to apply or at least talk about na nakatulong sa atin, na baka makatulong rin sa iba.
So these are tips that we can give you guys on when you're moving in with your partner. So number one, I would say would be have savings, because what you don't want is when you move in together and you're spending everything on like rent or spending everything on the whole household and you don't even have savings on hand. What happens if there's an emergency? Diba? Like, where is the money for the rent gonna go?
Can I support this?
Yes.
Because I said this. I told this to my younger brother, and he moved in with his partner a couple of months ago. So it's so important to have savings kasi sometimes some people may decide to move in together pag sakto lang yung pera. Oh, we have just enough for this much for 3 months worth of rent. And I'm like, no, kailangan may extra talaga. And it has to be a considerable amount, because the very first time you move in with your partner, I promise you, like 99% sure there will be unexpected expenses. Bonizi and I went through it. My brothers all went through it. Lauren went through it. Almost everybody I know have gone through it. And it's the simplest things na overlook. Okay? Because it's inexperience. The only way to battle inexperience is to experience it.
Also, another point that I have on why you need savings, especially if you're going to rent a place. Usually when you rent, the owner of the unit will say, okay, you need a down payment and you need a security deposit. So
those are examples of why you need extra money. Kasi sometimes you're budgeting, pero yun pala may unexpected expenses or money out na kailangan.
yeah, so if you have a security deposit kasi, that's usually 2 months worth of rent, and then you need a down payment. That's also, depending on the owner, it could be 1 or 2 months worth of rent then.
And another example, just to support what you're saying, Bones, I think this happened kasi to me and my older brother and my younger brother. When they moved in, we completely forgot na kailangan namin ng heater.
No?
And
a heater in the bathroom.
A heater, diba? It's like something, kasi sobrang excited ka to move in with your partner, sobrang excited ka, you have a new place, you have space. We all forgot that you needed a heater. And when we got in, how much is a heater, Bonizi? Ang mahal. I don't know where else to get a heater. Alam ko lang sa Wilcon. Or sa hardware store. And it's like 4,000 to 6,000
So, anong
pesos.
ginawa mo? Nag-init ka ng tubig? Ganun yung ginagawa namin dati sa probinsya.
We had to buy. We had to buy a heater. It happened in my first condo.
I know this.
It happened to my brother. And that's a lot of money out. I mean, biglang 5,000 pesos. I'm like, oh my God, kalahati na ng rent ko to. Ba't ganun?
Oo. Mahal.
Diba? Especially kung sakto lang yung pera mo. Wala na. Giba na agad yung budget mo. That's why I'm saying you really need to be able to have a good amount of emergency funding and extra money kasi it's such a small thing, a heater, but the cost is considerable.
No, and that's not the only thing. You have furniture, you have appliances that you need to buy for your house. So that's why it's important to have savings and really budget things out before you move in together.
Example number 2, okay? Spoons and forks. Metal spoons and forks. Because I used to use plastic spoons and forks and I was okay with it. But when Bonizi moved in, I needed to buy proper utensils para hindi naman napuputol pag nagcha-chop siya ng fried chicken. Diba? I mean, these are the small things that all add up. Another example to consider is storage. Sa totoo lang, people say, hindi, lalagay ko muna sa table, lalagay ko muna sa floor. The next thing you know, yung dining table mo, naging lalagyan na ng damit, ng sapatos, ng gamit, and you'll have to spend on a cabinet. How much is a super cheap cabinet? Maybe 500 to 1,500 pesos. Super cheap na yun, ah.
Yeah, yung mga orokan.
Oo. Pero let's say you need 2. Oh. And then, paano kung gusto pa ng partner mo na medyo maganda? Wood. Diba?
So these are like unforeseen expenses that you don't really know that you need, but once you start living together, you're like, oh
You
yeah.
will find out.
Oh yeah, I needed that. Okay, moving on to the next tip. I think this is important and it goes hand in hand with our first tip. Na have savings is to, well, this is a tip that we gave ourselves also because this is the way that we live our life. But if you like this tip, then it's live within your means. Meaning, don't spend money that you do not have. Diba?
Yeah.
Don't you agree? Like sometimes, like you'll have a credit card, you have a limit, but then you don't have that that amount in your bank account, and you're just like swipe, swipe, swipe. I have this on my credit card. It's my limit.
It's just funny that it came from you, not from me.
Well, I'm a changed person. So, excuse me.
Okay. And another thing, another tip that I feel might be one of the most important is be prepared in terms of your mindset. Have your mentals ready.
Because we're so used to the way that we do everyday life without our partners, especially if we both or if you both grew up in different environments. Mikael was, he grew up in he grew up in Manila. It's a very different kind of lifestyle from the lifestyle that I was used to in Subic. So we both have had different ways of doing things. But what you need to be prepared for is how you're going to merge those two lifestyles together and make it your own.
Oh, well, I was referring to something else. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude. That's why I was like, do you know what I'm going to say?
No, I was thinking of something else, but hey,
Okay, so
I
that
guess
was
that worked out.
Bonizi's tip. I had a completely different tip that I wanted to share. And my tip was you need to have this mindset that things are going to go wrong. It's impossible.
Yes.
It's impossible for things to be perfect and smooth.
But that doesn't mean that you have to be pessimistic about it. You have to be ready for when it happens.
You're going to make me finish my point or what?
Yes, I'm just sing it just a little bit over there.
Okay. It's excited si Bonizi. But
Yeah.
anyway, back to my point, which was about mindset, which I think that it's important for both partners to talk about agreeing that, hey, we're going to hit a lot of road bumps. We're definitely going to get into arguments and quandaries and I guess important decisions that we have to make and sacrifices. And I think you should be aware of that from the get-go before even considering moving in or before moving in. So that at least when you hit that roadblock or that obstacle in your life and in your relationship, parang medyo mabawasan mo na yung emotional tension. Because when you get to reduce that tension, that's when you can make a better decision. I mean, once again, that heater, diba? What if we ran into that problem and Bonizi screams at me, bakit kasi hindi mo naisip na kailangan natin ng heater?
Bakit ganyan ba ako sumigaw sa'yo?
Ganyan ka sumigaw, actually. She really does talk like that.
I don't shout.
Medyo gangster siya.
I don't shout. Do I shout?
No, you don't.
Oh.
You were screaming at me there.
No, I wasn't screaming.
Okay, but that is one of, I guess, my most important tips because it really allows you setting that mindset and preparing yourself mentally as a couple could possibly just help temper some of the more emotional moments.
Yeah.
Kasi yun nga, as I was trying to finish my example, Bonizi, kung sinisigawan na ako ni Bonizi about a heater, baka mag-walk out pa ako sa galit. But if kung you're prepared, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Pero kung alam nyo naman na you are going to make a mistake na unforeseen, baka sabihin natin, okay, ito na yung pinag-usapan natin eh. Let's try to figure out how are we going to get past this problem.
Buti na lang we have more than one room here in the house para kung mag-walk out ka man, mag-walk out ka sa kabilang kwarto.
Okay, so that's my that was me sharing my own experience. How about you, Bonizi? Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I think the last tip that I want to give to the viewers of the podcast is bring what you need. Because one thing that I learned is that you don't need to bring every single thing that you have, because more often than not, there are a lot of things that you don't use.
Example. Go
Example, when I first moved into, Mikael's condo that he wasn't using, I was living alone. I brought everything that I had from my house, and the whole condo was full of boxes. This was a 1-bedroom apartment. And he was like, "What's in this box? Magazines. What's in this box? Stuffed toys."
What's in the other box? Medals from grade school.
So there are a lot of things that I didn't really need, and I realized that I was holding on to them because of sentimental value, or because maybe they were there to, boost my ego, I guess, just being real. So I realized that, okay, I don't need these things. What are the things that I'll need moving forward in my life and in my life with my partner?
I agree with that. Do bring only what you need. I think that when you're moving in with a partner, you're starting basically a new chapter in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that goes the same for your partner as well. So bringing your whole life, just think about it, analogy-wise. If you're going to bring your whole life...
You're bringing all your baggage
into a space where you're going to create something new. And then your partner does the same... Obviously, it will not fit in this new life.
Yeah, you need to create new memories together.
Okay, so just bring only the essentials, and then from there, you will slowly accrue objects and memories of your own in that new life.
I like this topic.
So, is this a minimalism thing?
Yeah.
Okay. We can talk about that on another episode.
Yeah.
But at this point, I guess we can go... Are you okay, Bonizi?
I'm good.
And at this point, I guess we can go to the loaded question of the week.
The loaded question of the week. Dun, 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 dun. Is it okay to live with your partner before getting married? So this is a topic that is quite taboo, especially in the Philippines, because syempre we live in a mostly Catholic country, and the belief is that you only live in with your partner pag kasal na kayo, or when you're married. So the question here is that okay if you live with your partner before that?
You answer first, Pons.
Okay. In my opinion, I don't want to impose anything on anyone, because throughout the podcast, we have mentioned that, people do things based on what works for them. Of course, at the back of our heads and at the back of our parents' heads, what they want is, kung ano yung nasusundan nila, what their upbringing was, kung ano yung sinasabi sa Bible, or what their beliefs are. But I think that in our everyday lives, whatever works for you, people have their own way of doing things.
Gotcha. So
should we, are we going to ridicule other people for what works for them, for what works for them financially, what's in their capacity to do things?
So is it okay?
I think it's up to you.
There you go. Now it's clear.
Up to you.
And my answer to the loaded question is, it's a beautiful answer, Bonizi. Something that really boils the blood.
I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate and a lot of, I don't know.
My answer to the loaded question is, it depends.
I mean, that's kind of like my answer also.
My answer to that is it depends, simply because it's a case-to-case basis. So we shared our experiences, and that will apply to some couples, but it also won't to others.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because yun nga, case-to-case talaga siya eh.
Yeah, it really depends.
To, I guess, provide a more concrete example, when you have youngins, maybe like fresh from college, who are trying to move in, obviously together, obviously that's a more sensitive topic. But I've also seen a scenario where that worked. And then on the flip side of that, I've seen 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds who have tried to move in together and it ended up in flames.
Yeah.
So it really just goes to show that there's a lot of work and a lot of subjective discourse or conversations that need to happen for you to kind of realize it, if it's going to work or not. And for some people, even with all the preparation in the world, you just cannot predict what will happen when two different lives come together as one.
I feel like there's no concrete sequence with how you should go about your life. Usually people say you get married, you buy a house, then you have a baby.
That's a really good answer.
And I've seen this situation where, yes, it's been great, fruitful yung situation na yun. But I've also seen experiences where it was the complete opposite and it didn't work out for them. And those situations ended up in annulment. Diba? May mga ganun situation. But on the flip side, for those that choose to buy a house, have a baby, and then get married, or if you switch it around whatever way, there are instances where it doesn't work, but there are also times when it does work. So, like I said kanina, and like you said, it depends, and people have different situations that work best for them.
Yeah. In a nutshell, we've been reiterating it throughout the podcast, trying to figure out whether it is okay or it is time to move in with your partner really depends on your situation and how well you guys can prepare for it.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, there's just so much unpredictability to the situation. So here we are, and that was actually the reason why we wanted to do this podcast, because we also wanted to share our experience in hopes that we could take away even just a smidgen of that unpredictability.
And I want to say thank you to everybody that's been messaging us in our email that's behindrelationshipgoals@gmail.com. I have been getting quite a lot of questions about living in with your partner or moving in with your partner, and that's why we have our topic today. So thank you for sending in your questions and being curious about topics like this.
Yeah, and for those who were able to relate to some of our stories, great job. I'm glad we were able to relate with you guys.
And we also like comments, and even violent reactions are okay because it means you listen to the podcast. So thank you.
And with that, I think we've come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Fofo.
And I'm Bones.